Picture this. It's one of those off days. Maybe it just wasn't the best time at work or in class. Too much is happening all at once. And stress, yes, stress with a capital S, is too overwhelming. Emotions are running high now. They have been brewing quietly for quite a while. And you finally feel them start to boil over as your eyes start collecting water and your vision blurs. You feel somebody approach you. You cannot see who it is through that hazy fog, but they do say one thing to you, and one thing only. Don't cry. I want you to step back for now and ask yourself, did that phrase, don't cry, make you feel supported and understood? Or did it just make you feel ashamed for having shown anything at all? Everyone in this class has at one point been told, don't cry, or has said it to someone else. It's a common way to show that you care for the other person, meaning to comfort them, but reality is that it often does just the opposite by killing emotional expression. I've personally endured hearing that phrase over countless years and know how dismissive those words can feel during my most vulnerable moments. I've had plenty of conversations with friends over this exact topic and explaining why it can hurt more than it helps, delving deep into studies that focus on emotional expression and mental health. We should not be telling people or someone who is sad to not cry, as it invalidates their emotions, discourages healthy emotional expression, and can negatively impact mental health. Instead, we should adopt more supportive responses, rooted in empathy and understanding. In this speech, we will be discussing why the response, don't cry, causes emotional invalidation, followed by how suppressing emotions can harm mental health. Finally, we will address the familiar defense that people who say it have good intentions, and why those intentions fail to provide support for its target audience. Let's begin with how someone may immediately interpret those words upon hearing them. When someone says, don't cry, what they're doing, often without realizing it, is emotionally invalidating the other person. Emotional invalidation happens when someone's feelings are dismissed, minimized, or otherwise made to feel inappropriate. Compare this to emotional validation, which recognizes another's emotions as real and understandable without judgment or a need to agree with them. And you might see now that the effects of being ignored emotionally can be detrimental. Research strongly shows that kind of response, emotional invalidation, does not help. A 2022 study on emotional invalidation published on Science Direct found that perceived emotion validation predicted greater affective distress above and beyond emotion dysregulation, emotional reactivity, and expressivity. In other words, when people feel that their emotions are being shut down or judged, they actually experience more emotional distress, not less. Another study from the 2023 journal Anxiety, Stress, and Coping expands on this idea, explaining that feeling emotionally invalidated may project affective experiences, including how emotions are momentarily experienced and how life stressors are interpreted. This means that being told something like, don't cry, doesn't just affect someone in that moment. It can change how they process emotions and stress overall. So rather than calming someone down, telling them, don't cry, can intensify their emotional experience and make them feel misunderstood or unsupported. Not only does this phrase invalidate emotions in the moment, but over time, it also creates long-term harm in promoting suppression. In psychology, suppression is a defense mechanism where one consciously blocks out any unwanted thoughts, feelings, or memories out of their mind in an effort to not think of them anymore. Thus, by saying, don't cry, it is implied that one should not be expressing the strong emotions which cause tears to form in the first place. However, it has been realized over decades that emotional suppression often backfires. In a 2018 study on suppression published in the journal Emotion, researchers Cameron and Overall found that when individuals suppressed their emotions, they experienced more intrapersonal costs, such as greater depressed mood, greater fatigue, lower self-esteem, and lower life satisfaction. While emotional suppression has been shown to cause harm, emotional expression, such as crying, in this case, can actually be a healthy and necessary part of emotional regulation. Crying allows individuals to release emotional tension, process de-stressing experiences, and feel supported when others respond with empathy rather than discomfort. When people are allowed to express their emotions freely, they are more likely to regulate those emotions effectively instead of internalizing them. Therefore, discouraging emotional expression by saying, "don't cry," takes away a natural coping mechanism and replaces it with silence and internal strain. Despite this evidence, many people still defend the phrase, "don't cry," arguing that it's said with good intentions and meant to help. This brings us to the counterargument. A common defense of the phrase, "don't cry," is that people say with goodwill, believing that it will comfort or calm the person who is upset. Many people feel uncomfortable when others cry around them and believe that stopping the tears will make the situation better. In this case, "don't cry" is often intended as reassurance rather than dismissal. However, research shows that intention does not always align with emotional impact. A 2022 study comparing emotional validation and invalidation, published in the journal Borderline Personality Disorder and Emotional Dysregulation, found that invalidation escalates emotion, whereas validation may decrease emotion. This means that even when "don't cry" is said with care, it can intensify emotional distress instead of soothing it. More supportive alternatives, including phrases like, "I'm here for you," "that sounds really frustrating," or "it makes perfect sense that you feel this way about that," are a lot more effective in helping someone emotionally regulate themselves. Now that we've examined the emotional harm caused by invalidation, the mental health consequences of suppression, and why good intentions do not excuse harmful outcomes, we can bring everything together. We should not be telling someone who is sad to not cry, as it invalidates their emotions, discourages healthy emotional expression, and can negatively impact mental health. Instead, we should adopt more supportive responses rooted in empathy and understanding. In this speech, we discussed why the response "don't cry" causes emotional invalidation, followed by how suppressing emotions can harm mental health. Finally, we addressed the familiar defense that people who say it have good intentions and why those intentions fail to provide support for its target audience. So, the next time someone cries in front of you, don't say, "don't cry." Remember, your role isn't to stop their tears. It's to let them know that their feelings are allowed, their emotions are valid, and that they don't have to face them alone.